The first time it happened, I thought a stranger had made a mistake. I'd been driving for 9 hours with no destination. That's how I travel. I don't plan. I see an exit, I take it. I find a town. I find a motel. I sleep. And in the morning I decide whether the place deserves another day. It almost never does. That's not sad to me. That's freedom. That's the whole point of my life. Nobody knows where I am, because I don't know where I am until I'm already there. So I pull into this motel outside a town I won't bother naming, because the name didn't matter then and it doesn't matter now. And I walk up to the desk, and I say I'd like a room. And the clerk types my name before I give it. She doesn't ask. She just looks at me, and her fingers move, and she says, "You're already in the system. You're all set." I laughed. I actually laughed, because the obvious answer is that there's another guy with my name, and what are the odds? And isn't that a funny thing to tell at a bar sometime? I took the key. I slept. In the morning I left, and I forgot about it before I hit the highway. The second time was 400 miles away. Different state, different chain. A town I picked because a man pumping gas told me the diner there did a good pie. I walk up to the desk. I say my name. The kid behind the counter says, "Right, the reservation. Sorry your room's not on the ground floor. It's all we had left when you called." When I called. I never called. I want to be clear about something because everything after this depends on it. I am not an organized person. I don't make plans. I have never in my adult life booked a hotel in advance. That is the entire architecture of how I live. I don't decide where I'm going until I'm standing at the door. So when the kid told me I'd called, I didn't feel scared yet. I felt insulted, like someone was stealing my name and using it badly. I figured, identity theft. Somebody has my information and they're booking rooms, maybe running a scam, and I'm going to get a clean answer if I just push on it. So I pushed. I asked the kid to print the reservation. He did. And there it was. My full name, spelled correctly, middle name and all. The correct check-in date, which was that day. The day I decided on while eating pie I hadn't known existed 12 hours earlier. The correct number of nights. And a phone number. I looked at the phone number for a long time, because it was mine. It was a number I'd had years ago, back when I still lived in the place I don't talk about. A number I gave up when I left. A number that, when I dialed it later that night just to be sure, told me it was no longer in service. The reservation had been made from a phone that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, I told myself, old records. Some database somewhere still had my old number attached to my name, and a glitch was autofilling it. Computers do strange things. That's a sentence I said out loud to myself in a motel bathroom, and I almost believed it. So I started keeping the receipts. Not because I was afraid, because I'm stubborn, and I wanted to catch the glitch in the act. Over the next few weeks, it kept happening. Not every motel, but enough. Enough that I started to expect the little pause at the front desk, the eyes flicking to the screen, the, "Oh, you're already in the system." And I started asking for the records every time. That's when the timeline broke. Because I asked one clerk when the reservation had been made. She said, "Looks like 4 days ago." And I knew exactly where I'd been 4 days ago. I'd been in a town 600 miles east, a town I had picked the morning I left it, a town I'd had no plan to visit until I saw a billboard. The reservation in front of me had been made before I knew the town it was for existed. I checked the next one, made 6 days early. The one after that, 3 days early. I went back through my receipts and started writing the dates down. 2 columns. The day the room was booked. The day I decided to go. The booking column always came first. 3 to 7 days every time. The reservations weren't following me. They were ahead of me. That was the first night I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared of being followed, I could understand being followed. Being followed is a thing that happens to people. This was the opposite of being followed. This was something that knew where I was going before I did. I tried to think about how that was possible, and every road led off a cliff. I don't tell anyone my plans because I don't have plans. There's no calendar to steal, no itinerary to leak. I picked these towns off road signs and gas station gossip, on impulse, sometimes on a coin flip. There was nothing to predict. And yet, 3 to 7 days before each coin flip, a room was already being held. So I did the only thing I know how to do. I treated it like evidence. I bought a folder. Then I bought a second folder. I started requesting full reservation histories from every motel, printed forms, confirmation emails, payment logs, anything they'd give me. Most of them gave me everything, because I wasn't doing anything illegal. I was just a man asking for records of his own bookings. The folder became a box, and every single piece of paper in that box pointed the same way. My name, my dead phone number, a date that came before my decision. The evidence wasn't disappearing on me. The evidence was piling up. It was almost eager. It felt less like solving a mystery and more like somebody had left me a trail of breadcrumbs and was patiently waiting to see how long it would take me to start following it. Then I found the witnesses, and that's when I stopped being able to pretend. I'd gotten in the habit of asking the front desk if they remembered who made the booking. Most didn't, but some did, and the ones who did told me the same thing, and it was always the worst possible thing. They remembered me, not a man with my name, me. One woman described my voice, said I talked low, kind of tired. That's true, people tell me that. A man at a place in the high desert remembered that I'd asked whether the room had a coffee maker, because I always ask that. It's the one thing I care about. He remembered me asking, on the phone, days before I arrived. And one clerk, an older guy, the kind who calls everyone Chief, told me something I still hear when I'm trying to fall asleep. He said, "Yeah, you called ahead. You apologized. Said you might be later than you thought. Said sorry to make us hold it." I had apologized for being late 3 days before I arrived. I asked him if he was sure it was me. He looked at me like I was being strange and he said, "Chief, I'm looking at you. Of course it was you." Then I found the note. It wasn't on every reservation. It was on enough of them to matter. Enough that the first time I noticed it, I went back through the whole box looking for it. And there it was, again and again, in different towns and different states, attached to bookings made by a phone that doesn't exist, in a voice that sounded like mine. The note always said the same thing. Please keep a room available. He may take longer than expected. No employee remembered writing it. I asked everywhere. I'd show them the printout and point at the line and ask, who put it there? And every one of them gave me some version of the same shrug. Not a scared shrug, a puzzled one. Like I was asking who wrote the rules of arithmetic. He may take longer than expected. I read that line maybe 200 times before I understood why it bothered me so much. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't surveillance. It was an excuse. It was the kind of thing you say when you're covering for someone you love. When you're holding a table at a restaurant and the rest of the party isn't there yet, and you tell the host, give him a few more minutes. He's always running behind. He'll come. It was patient. Whatever it was being patient with me. It had been being patient with me for years. I should tell you about the box. Not the box of evidence. The other box. The one I'd been carrying the whole time without thinking about it. Because here's the thing the investigation kept doing that I didn't expect.
The deeper I got into the reservations, the more I kept running into things I'd forgotten I owned. I'd be digging through my car looking for an old receipt, and I'd find a house key I never returned. I'd open a duffel bag I hadn't unzipped in a year, and there'd be a postcard, blank, addressed but never sent, a photograph of a front porch, a grocery list in handwriting that wasn't mine. There was a box I'd been moving from town to town for years, taped shut.
I'd carried it through 9 moves and never once opened it. The way you keep telling yourself you'll deal with something later. It rode in my trunk like a passenger. None of it was supernatural. That's what got me. None of these things appeared by magic. They were always there. I just packed them and moved them and packed them and moved them, the same way I packed and moved myself, sealing the past in a box and driving it to the next town so I'd never have to open it. The reservations in the box were doing the exact same thing to me, from 2 directions. The box was the life I'd carried but refused to look at. The reservations were that same life, up ahead, holding a door open. Then I made the map. I don't know why it took me so long. I think I was avoiding it the way I avoid everything. But one night I bought a paper map of the country, a real one, and I started putting a pin in every motel. The first few pins looked random, scattered, years of impulse, a man bouncing around the map like a dropped marble. But I'd been doing this a long time. There were a lot of pins.
And when there are enough pins, you stop seeing dots and you start seeing a shape. They weren't random. They never had been. Each new motel was a little closer than the last to one place. Not in a straight line. I'd zigzag, I'd backtrack, I'd shoot off in the wrong direction for months. But the trend, the long, slow average of 11 years of running, bent toward one point on the map. A town I knew, the town I left, the town I don't talk about. Every road sign I'd obeyed, every gas station recommendation I'd taken, every coin flip, every whim, every freedom. All of it had been a long, patient, decade-long drift toward the one place I'd spent my whole adult life convincing myself I'd left for good. I stood there in front of that map, and I finally understood the question I'd been asking wrong the entire time. I kept asking, who's making the reservations? The real question, the one I'd been hiding from, was simpler and much worse. If every road was taking me home, why had it taken me so many years to notice where I was going? I need to tell you about the place. Not much. I'm not good at this part.
There was a town, and in that town there was a house, and in that house there was a life that was supposed to be mine. Someone expected me to stay. Someone thought we were going to build something. The kind of life where you fix the porch, and you learn the neighbors, and you stop checking the exits. That's the part that frightened me. Not the work, the permanence. The idea that I would wake up one day and be from somewhere, and there'd be no leaving it, because leaving would cost too much. So when the moment came, and there's always a moment, a single morning when you either unpack the last box or you don't. I didn't unpack it. I told myself I'd come back. That's the whole lie right there. The lie I built a life on top of. I'll come back later. I just need some air. I just need to move for a while, and then I'll come back and we'll figure it out. Later. I have spent 11 years learning what that word actually means. Later is the most expensive word in the language. Later is how you lose everything without ever deciding to. The last thing I did, before I understood I had to stop telling this as a mystery, was dial the old number.
My own old number.
The one on every reservation. The dead one. I don't know what I expected. A scam? A clue? A voice that would finally explain who'd been booking rooms in my name and put an end to it? It rang. A disconnected number isn't supposed to ring. It's supposed to give you the 3 tones in the recording. This one rang, longer than a live line should, longer than I could stand, and just as I went to hang up, something picked up. An answering machine. An old one. You could hear it in the click and the hiss. One of those cassette machines from before any of this, before cell phones, before I left. Not a ghost, not a voice from beyond, just an ordinary household answering machine, the kind that used to sit on a kitchen counter next to the keys. And the message on it was the message from the house. Our message. The one we'd recorded together a lifetime ago, in the kitchen of the life I ran from. I'd forgotten it existed. I'd forgotten the exact sound of it. And it played, all the way through, warm and a little awkward the way those things always were, telling me to leave a message, we'll get back to you. And then, at the very end, after the part I remembered, there was a part I didn't. A line added on. Same kitchen, same machine. Just 4 words, recorded who knows when, into a machine attached to a number that hasn't existed for years, in a house I left and never went back to. It said, "If this is you, call home." I've thought about that message every day since. I've tried to work out the timestamps. When could it have been recorded? The number was dead. The house. I don't even know who's in the house now, if anyone. There is no version of the physics where that recording exists. I've stopped trying to solve it. That's the part I've made my peace with not knowing. Because somewhere in the middle of all those nights with the box of records and the map full of pins, the question quietly changed on me. I started out terrified that something knew where I was going. I ended up understanding something so much heavier than that. Nothing was chasing me. I had it backwards the whole time. There was never a hunter. There was a place keeping my room ready. A door held open 3 to 7 days ahead of me at every stop, all of them slanting home. A note in every file making excuses for me. He may take longer than expected. The way you'd cover for someone you'd decided, long ago, to keep waiting for no matter how long it took. The porch light never went off. The key stayed on the hook. The machine kept answering a dead line. And somewhere, in some sense I'll never be able to prove or explain, a place I abandoned simply refused to stop believing I'd come home, and was patient enough and stubborn enough to keep a seat warm for 11 years until it was right. So here's what I do now. Here's the mark it left on me, the one I'll carry the rest of my life. I can't leave anywhere casually anymore. I used to be the best in the world at leaving. I could be packed and gone before the coffee was cold. No goodbye, no look back, I'll come back later. That man is gone. I killed him with a box of motel receipts. Now, before I leave any place, a motel, a diner, a parking lot, a town, anywhere, no matter how little it should matter, I walk through it one more time. Slowly. The room, the lot, the front desk where someone might once have held my name. And I stand there for a second and I ask myself one question. If this is the last time I ever see this place, am I leaving anything unfinished? Most of the time the answer is no, and I go. Sometimes the answer is yes, and when it's yes, I stay a little longer, however long it takes, because I don't trust later anymore. I know exactly what later costs now. I have a box of paper that proves it,
and a number that still rings, and a recording in a kitchen that waited 11 years to ask me the only question that ever mattered. I'm driving there now. The town I don't talk about. The one all the roads were always bending toward. I should have gone 11 years ago. I keep thinking about that, but I'm not going to tell myself later again. There's a reservation waiting. There's always a reservation waiting. This time, I'm going to keep it.